Good morning. Welcome to week 5, guys. We finally made it. We're going to be wrapping up this week with globalization, terrorism, and cybercrimes. A lot going on this week. If you guys have been watching the Baltimore investigation and riots, we're starting to see other riots break out in Philadelphia, New York, Dallas, Austin, and a few other places. You know, the one thing that I keep talking about to my other students, as well as a friend of mine who's actually an attorney who's contracted to work with the Baltimore Police Department. He's at this conference also. Oh, by the way, I'm in Austin this week at an FBI conference for trainers. The thing is innocent until proven guilty. And one of the things we were talking about last night is that this prosecutor, no matter what your thoughts are on whether the officers are guilty or innocent, is, in his opinion, and I agree with him, is that she's kind of rushed this entire press conference. She rushed her position out, I think, to get her name out there a little bit, and basically because of the pressure from the mobs and from the political pressure she must be feeling right now with the mayor and with the police department and all that. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is going to unfold. I'm kind of watching it closely. These things always kind of comes in twos or threes. So if we have another incident somewhere in the nation, I think it's just going to create more fires and spark more outrage. More so than we already have now. So anyways, I hope you guys are keeping up on the Baltimore situation. It's just, it's a bad deal. I mean, it's one of those things that's unfortunate for the victim, and it's going to be a mess for us to work through it. Okay, so here we are at week 5, enough about Baltimore. We're going to just talk about globalization, terrorism, and cybercrimes. And what I like about this book is they've kind of merged all these two together, these concepts, and they actually do kind of bleed into each other quite a bit. When we talk about globalization, there's a book out there called The Lexus and the Olive Tree by Thomas Friedman. If you guys ever have a few minutes or just some time to sit down and read and try to understand what globalization is, Thomas Friedman does a great job. Again, it's called The Lexus and the Olive Tree. It was one of the required books I had to read from one of my graduate degrees. And he basically explains how we're all connected now on a global front. Whether it's the internet, shipping, communications, arms deals, and how we become so connected. We've also become so independent and interdependent on other countries and other nations. So it's kind of interesting to read how he kind of describes how the economy, the mentality, the mindset, jobs, security, law enforcement has kind of just changed overnight when the way we're all connected on a global front. With that being said, terrorism has become a bigger issue now with globalization. For a long time, prior to the internet and prior to the mid-90s, we didn't have a whole lot of, terrorism considerations within the United States. We always had threats. We would verify them, but then things started happening like in Beirut, Lebanon. We had Operation Eagle Claw in the late 1970s in Iran with the hostages. And then from there, it just kind of exploded. We've seen groups like Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, ISIS now. We're starting to see many factions in the Horn of North Africa. But if you come closer to home, you look at the cartels in Mexico, the MS-13, and some of those gangs that are working for the cartels. They're basically a form of terrorists. They're engaging in terrorist activities. Now, granted, most of those guys are businesses. They're sponsoring and supporting terrorism. If you go down into South America, you go into China, terrorism's everywhere. And there's different types of terrorism. We've got ideological, we've got religious, we've got international, we've got domestic. Inside the Texas borders here, we keep alerts up of active terrorist cells, both domestic and international. And with domestic, you think about eco-terrorists, the ones that are for the environment. You look at political terrorism. Aryan Brotherhood is considered a terrorist organization to some degree because they basically go against the Constitution. They go against the United States government. So as you read through this chapter, you kind of get an idea of how complicated and how dynamic that the theories of terrorism are in 2015. Now, part of that section they're going to talk about is human trafficking, and that's something some of us that are in law enforcement here in the class deal with maybe on a day-to-day basis. I know we certainly get training on it from the state, but in human trafficking, we talk about two types. There's going to be trafficking of persons, which is against their will. They're slaves, basically, and they are either sold into slavery for commercial sex acts, That's prostitution, internet child pornography, brothels, massage parlors, depending if they're an adult or a child. Then there's forced labor. And forced labor means they're going out and working in fields, building houses, working at restaurants, maids, butlers, and it can be children, and it can also be adults as well. And they're basically here against their will. They're working off a debt, or they've been sold somewhere from another country, typically Mexico, China, on the East Coast, anywhere from the former Soviet Republic. The other type of human trafficking, it's under the trafficking guidelines, but we talk about smuggling, and smuggling is a different animal, because most of the people, or most society, kind of merge those two together as you use them interchangeably. And smuggling is more of a business transaction. All right. For example, I'll hire someone to smuggle me across the border. All right. After I'm across the border, the transaction's done, and I go about my business. The smuggler goes back and looks for more people to sneak over the border, and he gets paid maybe $2,000 or $3,000 per head a person he smuggles over. Human trafficking means you're brought over the border illegally, but then you're sold or put into some kind of commercial sex act or forced labor, and therefore you're a human trafficking victim. Or smuggling it's me illegally crossing the border and having someone help me facilitate it. And there's all kinds of different smuggling, different types of laws, state and federal. We also have a term now, what we call domestic sex trafficking, where we are basically having children that are born and raised in America put into prostitution or pornography out of their own homes, or boyfriends, coaches, parents, whatever. They're the pimps or the Johns or the boyfriends, whatever, that are forcing their children to do this. And that's another type of sex trafficking. Now, after that, the chapter moves into cybercrimes, chapter 10. And cybercrimes, it's a new era in law enforcement, to say the least. It's difficult because as much as we try to stay ahead of the curve, I always feel personally that we're behind things when we're dealing with cyber crimes. One of the biggest things we deal with cyber crimes, at least I deal with on a daily basis, is identity theft and breach of computer security, forging checks, digitally imaging IDs like Texas driver's licenses, social security cards, and all that. Identity theft's a billion-dollar business. Companies like LifeLock and these other guys, try to protect your identity, but reality is they are not 100%. Okay, you're always at risk of, when you fill out an application or you even use your credit card at a restaurant, you're at risk of getting your identity stolen. More times than not, an average person will have their identity stolen maybe 2 or 3 times in their lifetime. What I try to tell my students and my officers is just protect your stuff. Don't broadcast your information out on Facebook or Twitter. When you're buying things online, make sure it's a secure site, meaning there's like a little lock in the bottom corner of your screen. Also, make sure it's a notable site or site that you've been to before that's trusted, or a trusted site. Also, a lot of people are starting to pay their bills on the phone. They're out there they get that little app where you can slide your credit card or go to Starbucks with that little app. That's great, but if someone's out there fishing for Bluetooth signals or trying to intercept your call logs or your phone book or something like that, chances are they can extrapolate everything in your cell phone because your Bluetooth's on, or just because it's a vulnerable system. Same thing with the internet. I try not to do any banking or anything from a wireless center. I want to use a DSL or a cable line that's more secure. So just little things like that with identity theft. We only need 2 or 3 pieces of information: your name, social security number, mom's maiden name, zip code, address, and you can pretty much take someone's identification with a few more steps beyond that. DNA coding, everything right now is digital. Typically, most prisoners now, we take a sample of their blood, sample of their DNA, we put it into something like CODIS, where we can run DNA matches, comparisons, contrasts against people, or to see if they are a suspect and all that. It's an evolving science, but it is getting better. It would not surprise me in the next 10 years if everyone in America or everyone in the world has some kind of DNA fingerprint somewhere out there, whether it's a blood type, tissue type, blood sample, DNA, whether from its saliva or some kind of bodily fluid or something like that, and it's in the system. Agencies that are going to be combating this in Texas, my department, the Long Beach Police Department, has a grant called ICAC, which is the Internet Crimes Against Children, meaning that we are funded to take surrounding agencies' computers, hard drives, cell phones, whatever, and when it's a child porn or child pornography case or fraud case, we can take it and we can clone the hard drive and then help prepare that case for that officer, that investigating agency for prosecution. U.S. Attorney General's Office has a cyber squad division. Of course, the FBI has a cyber squad division. Secret Service also does. U.S. Marshals and the CIA. Those guys are pretty much the big boys that are working cyber crimes right now. Dozens of classes out there that local law enforcement can take on cyber crimes, cell phone dumping, intercepting text messages and stuff like that. It's really not a hard lesson, but I will tell you from experience that you've got to find people in your agency, or if you're interested in like this, you've got to love doing this. You've got to have a passion for technology, not be afraid of technology, and do what you can to stay current on everything. So those are the two chapters we're going to be talking about, chapters 9 and 10, globalization and terrorism and cyber crimes. Good reads, very simple reads. There's some key terms in there that I think you'll find interesting that might clear up a few things, like the different types of hackers and different types of terrorists and how what we consider to actually be an act of terrorism, Patriot Act, stuff like that. So be sure to read up on those. Your chapter quizzes are going to be open. The discussion board, your interactive assignment is going to be open. Again, if you have any questions or need anything, give me a holler or just shoot me an email or whatever, and I'll be around. I will be in Austin till Thursday morning, and then I'm going to drive back to East Texas. But I will have my cell phone with me, so I'll be checking messages periodically, and I'll be checking y'all's discussion board. So you guys have a great week. Take a breath. We're almost done. Also, I got a couple emails about the Homeland Security course and the Professional Ethics course. Really, guys, the Homeland Security course, like I put on y'all's announcement, is just an overview of Homeland Security, what the thousands of different agencies, what they do, what they investigate. There's no way for me to go through it all in 5 weeks. So I pick out the fun stuff and we kind of talk about it. The ethics course is really just what is ethical and what's not ethical from an officer, a supervisor, and a chief's point of view in this course. Of course, now at Baltimore, I've got tons of information and current stuff I can talk about. I can talk about stuff that's occurred in my own agency recently, as well as some surrounding agencies. So if you're looking for a 5-week course and you're looking for some good stuff, I promise you I'll make it interesting. I'm very passionate about those things, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you in future classes. So like I said, you guys have a great week. Email me or text me if you have any questions or concern. Good luck. Bye.